When we return to our planet, the High Court may well sentence you to torture.
He likes movies, we like movies. Septum Sin versus the Wild. Septum Sin versus the Wild. Septum Sin versus the Wild. Septum Sin versus the world.
I'd buy that for $1.
Greetings! Welcome to our new segment. We are the Wize Guys that stands buys.
Right.
Of course, we're saying this because we may be marketing this over to some other channels, or at least one channel in particular. So, what we do is we watch movies, but not just any movies. We're watching movies about gaming. Be it video gaming, board gaming, role-playing gaming, and maybe even some series in that method too. I want to do board games eventually.
Okay.
But of course, I am your host for today. We're going to be tag teaming the hosting, and I will be the host this time. My name is Septum Sin, and of course, I am joined with Kotobuki Jake,
Hi.
Somewhat knowledgeable gamer. He's done a little bit of each of those things. You've done a little bit of role-playing, well, a little bit more than a little bit of role-playing, but some video gaming, and definitely board gaming.
Yeah.
So, today, we're going to be talking about the movie Press Start.
Hey.
This is a 2007 film,
Yes.
directed by Ed Glaser, Glaser, for those of you at home trying to follow along.
Exactly.
And
Written by Kevin Folliard.
so this film is about an everyday man waking up in a video game world, doing his video game things when it is threatened by the evil Count Vile, I think it is.
Yes.
And he must be joined by the other members of the Resistance in order to find the artifacts and take him down. All right. Well, is this your first time watching this?
Definitely not.
I know it's not, but but there's that.
I have seen this film a few times, and it is definitely a. You cannot really call it a top budget film by any means.
They had no budget.
And it shows. Actually, if they had no budget, they did a good job with that. But it's and one could debate the merits of the acting or whatnot, but in general, it fits nicely with what they're going with, which is basically it is a very fond tribute to gaming. And yes, as one who has some experience in all of those areas, I got a lot of the references. I'm sure I missed a lot of them, but I got a lot of them, and there's some pretty good ones.
And there is a metric ton of references over in there.
Many references. But it's fun. The main character is sort of just like the lovable goof kind of character, you know, the bland protagonist, you know, which he's even described as such by the people who seek his help. His uncle's hilarious. And then you have the Resistance. And Count Vile has to be one of the best villains.
See, for me, I first watched this. I don't know who found it. I think I was the one who found it because I was really into X-Strike and Dead Gentleman at the time. And you're going to be seeing a lot of those on this particular show. And I liked this kind of film, and I ran into this, and I had to see it. It just spoke to me as I've got to see this type of film, and it hit all the right buttons. As you said, for something with such a low budget or to no budget, really working on favors. This was very well done, and even has a quality that some of those films do not have in some ways. You don't actually expect the best acting out of these types of films, but they did a decent job.
Right.
I mean, let's talk about characters. Any particular characters that you thought were fun?
I guess I skipped ahead on the characters, huh? Well, basically, like I said, the main character, you got Zach Nimbus, who is... Visually, he looks like an animated riff on Ken from Street Fighter. But he goes around carrying a sword. He does have the big poofy hair, spiky poofy hair. He's probably, I guess he's supposed to be like a stand-in for like Final Fantasy or something like that,
he's
right?
even his name, which I believe is Zach Nimbus, he is a direct ripoff of Cloud from Final Fantasy VII, and of course you got the Ken thing here to do it. It's just they're trying to mix and match so many different genres.
Right. Sam is obviously a Metroid reference, and Ling Ku is very much a Mortal Kombat character. His name seems like a play on Liu Kang, but he's definitely looks like one of the ninjas, and he's a bloodthirsty ninja. And actually one of my favorite lines in the whole thing is like, Ling Ku goes, "Wait, don't kill them!" And they're like, "Did you say don't kill them?" And he's like, "Yeah, it felt weird."
Yeah.
But it's... And you see, there are some other very good Mortal Kombat references as we go on in the game. Movie. And then, like I said, Count Val, I'm not sure if he's a specific reference to anyone.
Oh, he was just so hilarious. The way he played the character.
He is basically... I can't resist. It's like he's Trump. He's so... he has this assistant, Johnson, who's much more competent than he is. And Johnson is always pointing out to him, "Sir, you shouldn't do this. The employees are complaining that the spinning blades are killing too many of them. And they just need to learn the timing."
He almost reminds me of a combination of Trump and Mr. Burns.
And I feel though like, well, he's nicer though. I mean, he's evil, but he's not like sadistically.
Yeah.
I almost said Basil Fawlty too, but he's more of a jerk too.
Maniacal laugh. Maniacal laugh.
Who's like who's Steve Carell in The Office? What was his character's name? There's a little bit of that.
See, I have not watched an episode of The Office.
Total incompetence. Let's put it that way. You could see it, and you could see Johnson as being like Dwight, but less manipulative and sneaky.
And of course, you have a bunch of minor characters like the shopkeeper.
Oh, the shopkeeper is great. He has the very best line in the film is when they return an artifact to the shopkeeper, and he is briefly very grateful, but something happens that he is no longer grateful. But while he is grateful, he says, "You can always rest assured that my prices will be more than reasonable."
But there is a lot of fun, and there's a lot of subtlety.
Yes.
So if you're not as big of a gamer, you probably won't get a lot of the subtlety. But if you've been gaming as long as I have, you do get a lot of that. Like the ninja character, it's mainly Mortal Kombat, but there's also a lot of references to other ninja games. Like the Ninja Star thing. He talks about,
What, the throwing stars thing?
Yeah, you got to get a crap ton of throwing stars. It's like, why? Yeah. Well, you just throw them away after you throw them. That is a reference to a lot of ninja games where you have just a bunch of them.
I've already used them.
And Sam has a slight bit of Jill Valentine with her, which they have the Resident Evil based stage a little bit later on.
Yeah.
So I think we can get into the plot, I guess. Okay. It's a pretty simplistic plot.
Incredibly simplistic. Actually, one more thing on character, and this really fits into the whole video game world. Yes. They play on this. They have fun with this. With the exception of a few particular characters, you go up to someone and talk to them. And actually, they do that right at the beginning. He goes up to this woman sweeping on the street, and she gives him this generic, like, clouds are gathering sort of thing. And then he's like, oh, thank you, and walks down. And he turns around and addresses her again, and she gives the exact same speech verbatim. And it's like, yeah, a lot of luck getting actual interaction with side
I forgot
characters.
about this guy here. Yes, he also is there, and he is the place of the annoying one. It's obviously a Navi reference, but there are a couple of those annoying ones that kind of teach you the game and tell you the same thing. And, of course, not so good things happen to that character as he goes through.
Now, I'm not as familiar with Resident Evil as you are, but the whole Resident Evil part also reminded me of first-person shooter-ups like Half-Life and things like that. And the whole part where Sam is re-quipping and she accidentally pulls him up. And
And that's the thing, is that they do multiple layers,
Right.
and as the plot goes on, you can see that they kind of layer video games
Right.
onto video games.
Right.
There's a little bit of BioShock in that too, with
Right.
the awkward inventory management.
Yeah.
It's not BioShock, System Shock.
But they didn't show us
predecessor.
a rip-off of the Fallout Boy, which would have been an interesting... but, yeah, plot-wise, basically, Zach... one day, and they never really explain how he lived in this world all this time and still suddenly learns how it works. I mean, I guess it's analogous to a player logging in and starting the game, but it's like this kid grew up here. It's not like he's, you know...
He seems like he's awfully unfamiliar with how things work in the world.
Yes,
He's at.
but his uncle, who he lives with, you see some very amusing stuff going on there. I particularly like the uncle's visits to the Life Lady.
Yes, and you know where that reference comes from.
I'm sure I'll recognize it when you see it.
So, yeah, essentially, and when I saw this the second time, I mean, I don't know how many viewings I've had of this, but when I saw this again, I immediately looked at this as like, oh yeah. In Zelda 2, The Adventures of Link, one of the ways you get your health back is you run into this woman in town, and she says, come with me, and you follow her into her house, and you don't know exactly what she's doing, but she's giving back your health. So, yeah, and that's a play on, obviously. Of course, the guy's like, I think I'm going to visit the Life League.
But, of course, with the way she delivers her lines, and I think they even had some music playing that was suggestive.
Oh, yeah.
I was thinking that was also a reference to any number of dating sims and other various things like that. Slightly dirtier games than you would expect. But that was...
Legend of Zelda 2.
and of course, the kid is completely clueless, doesn't get it at all. And then later, once we've met her, the uncle says, I'm going to go visit the Life Lady. I'll be back later. and we're all like, yeah. But then, of course, that also brings a fun reference to standard RPG stuff, where Linku is rifling through a chest in their living room, and it's like, what are you doing? That's our stuff. Oh, it was an unlocked chest.
Yes.
It's like, well, yeah, it was.
And that really breaks it down when you think about the plot itself is a very simple plot.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's just, evil person, gotta go fight them, get more powerful, fight the evil guy. And but the whole thing...
And the evil guy has a stupidly easy mechanic for finding yourself able to fight him.
Yes.
And Johnson repeatedly says, sir, shouldn't you just go see them directly and stop them before they get this far? Oh, no, it's fine, Johnson, don't worry.
And a lot of it, like the stuff that we talk about, is really where it shines, is it's just the constant references and these little scenes in between. These little stories are what makes the film as fun as it is. I mean, films with the basic plot line are a dime a dozen.
Right.
But having this one in particular, the cast of colorful characters, and just the number of references makes this greatly funny.
Right. Of course, actually, this fits into the character thing, but one of the more blatant references where they actually have fun with how blatant it is by playing around with the names is when they meet Captain Psychodrive, and he goes, no, you can't say that. We had to change everything because legal reasons. I'm G. Foreman now. And he's like, what? Well, who's the boxer? Well, he's Captain... No, he's Spanish Ninja. Well, who's the guy that jumped around with the blade? He's Captain Psychodrive. It's like obviously referencing M. Bison, Balrog, and Vega from Street Fighter. And Captain Psychodrive, G. Foreman, looks very much like M. Bison. But they just had this whole weird thing. They were, he's like, and he gives them flyers. And he's like, if they sent out an email and everything. But it was, I always liked that scene. I thought that was fun. But he is so blatantly an M. Bison ripoff that it was funny that they played with the whole legal issues with the names.
While we're there, let's continue with favorite scenes.
Okay.
And then we'll move into the special effects and music after that. One of my favorite scenes in this whole was when they're fighting the tree. And,
Yes.
And, of course, the guy tries to talk with the tree, and they keep trying to push this card game, Jokomol, which is a play on first off, Pokemon. But also,
any number of card games,
many of these,
whatever,
many of these RPGs.
Yeah.
Final Fantasy 8 and 9 were ripe with these card games that you had to play and you could get special rewards for. And this is where this was really throwing out.
Right.
And so the tree, he says, we'll talk about this. And he pulls out the cards like, yeah, we can play. It's like, no! And starts attacking him after that.
And my reaction to that is always, someone rolled a 1 on their diplomacy.
That's how I used to feel about that because I really didn't like going over trying to learn these stupid card games. Some of them could be fun if you picked them up. A lot of people love the one from Final Fantasy VIII. But to me, I'm like, I just want to get on with the game. I don't want to deal with all this. So I kind of enjoyed that. And then I also enjoyed the line, they're throwing the apples at the tree. You're pelting me with the bodies of my unborn children.
Must you pummel me?
So it's just...
and they're like, gross. I never thought of it that way.
Then throw it anyway.
But, yeah, it's even funnier because the tree has a very deep voice. It's like, it's weird. But, oh, man. Yeah, that was fun. That was the first relic, I believe.
Yeah, and there he is, if you can see him right there.
And the Street Fighter tournament, well, essentially Street Fighter tournament was the second relic. And I loved, like, Zack touches the relics and he gets visions. And, like, he gets the vision of after the first relic, and he's like, and Sam's like, what's going on? And Linku's like, only one thing could cause that reaction in a teenage boy. It's like so true. At any rate, those were good scenes. I did like the whole fighting tournament scene, but it's like little moments too. The part where Count Vile is verbally tormenting a plumber, and it's pretty clear what that's a reference to. And I like the part where Linku and Zack are in Vile's lair. They're making their way through the hallways, and Zack gets speared in the side because he's being a dumbass. And Linku looks around, and finds a leg of meat under a tapestry and hands it to him and says, "Eat this." And he's like, "No, gross, no." He's like, "Eat it." And then he starts, "Oh, it's gross and slimy and whatever." And then a few minutes later, complaining, and he's like, "Oh, I'm all better."
Wall turkey.
It's like an obvious reference to the video games where you're going around, you just find,
Castlevania especially, you would actually bash open a wall and there's a turkey inside.
Right. That's like the only other movie where I immediately think of something where they played on that was that really horrible Turkish film we watched where he was finding big shells just laying on the ground and put them in his bazooka.
Turkish Rambo was very fun.
Right.
Well, why don't we go to special effects? We could probably go on about these scenes all day.
The tree was a good example of the special effects. They were
okay CG.
Okay. But again, for what they were working with, they did a pretty fair job.
I was going to say, with the budget they had, they did a really good job. The practical effects weren't terrible.
Right.
Like the zombies, I think part of why they made the vision obscured, which was one to reference something, but the other is it made them look creepier and more realistic.
Right.
And the costumes were pretty darn fun.
They did a good job with the costuming, no doubt about it. And again, in the set design. I mean, you know, the sets were fairly minimal, but what they did do with them was pretty good.
And the choreography that they used, I mean, they had several martial artists on board with that. And one of the fun facts is that Johnny Cage from Mortal Kombat, the one they used for the original motion capture, was in this film.
You're talking about like from the actual game?
Yes, the motion capture guy. They even make the reference where he just puts on the sunglasses in the middle of the night.
Oh, I love this. Count Vile's fortress is actually the garage of actor Peter Davis.
Because they had to use all these foam things to put it together, but it looks good.
Right.
It looks convincing.
Right.
He had said he couldn't use his garage for the longest time after that was over. But it's still, they were passable effects, and they accomplished what they were doing. When you're watching a movie like this, I mean, come on, you see this on the cover, are you really sitting there going, I want Wetaworks special effects budgets?
Well, of course you do.
It's going to be, it's not going to be the best, but for what they had, I've seen a lot of B movies with bigger budgets that have done worse than what these people
wait a minute.
have.
The dude that played Count Vile was in that Rambo movie. Wow.
Oh.
Or maybe he did the vocal redub for it or something. Let's see.
Boy.
I guess he did.
That's an interesting credit. We were talking about those two, and somehow they line up still.
Yes, he was the voice in the redub for Zia and the Commander.
What did you think of the music?
It was good. I didn't really notice it for the most part, but I love how the Tetris theme found its way into the final end credits.
Yeah, they had a pretty good, a nice little rendition of it.
Yeah.
My favorite rendition is always going to be the heavy metal version that I've got, but
Right.
I have to admit, that's still fun.
I found a pretty awesome ragtime cover on YouTube, but yeah, there's some good stuff. But of course, to me, the Tetris theme is the all-time best piece of video game music. But, some good stuff.
And speaking of, why don't we go into the additional items of note, because that's really where the rest of the fun is.
Right.
The cats.
I've been trying to figure out, most of the people involved in this have not done a great deal outside of certain specific activities, mainly the Press Start movies and the animated series, Press Start Adventures. But apparently there is also the, what is the name of that?
I mean, really, these are the only ones that Dark Maze has done that's been similar to that. They have their ninja movies.
Yeah, and I was trying to say the most recent one apparently
Let me see.
is... Zach was also did the part of the vocals for Korkos, however you say that.
Ah, there we go. These. I mean, they had these like Ninja the Mission Force. So, Dark Maze was not. I don't even know if they have much offered right now. But
So,
you can still pick this up.
Cyborg
relatively well.
Assassin, Legend of the Space Ninja is from 2014. That's one of the most recent ones. But isn't that something?
I mean, really and truly, I'm just looking to see what
Is
it
that Dark
goes
Maze
for
or
now.
is that it's Ed Glazer had that one? But yeah, this is a as far as the other stuff, there is a sequel. It's called Press Start 2
Yep.
Continue. And I've only seen that one, I think, once. I didn't think it was as good, but it was one of those things where they had clearly a little bit more of a budget. They took it a little more seriously. I want to say Linka was the central. It was like him and some female character. I can't remember
And
who.
sadly enough, Press Start and Press Start 2 are both out of print. Some of these offerings, such as the Press Start Adventures and the second one, right now they're going for around $50.
Wow.
But you can still get the first one for around 10 to 15.
Yeah, that's the one I have.
So that's kind of cool that you can still get this film. It's got some fun special features. Some of the little computer animated stuff, very janky animation, but still, it gives you a little bit of a background. And they have these fun ones, these Dial V for Vile. I mean, just to give you some extra insight into the evil man himself.
I forgot that Spanish Ninja does show up in the second one.
So, I mean, it will be something cool. We'll have to cover the second one on another one of these in the future.
Yep. I still need to get it.
And maybe even a little animated series that they did.
Right.
But it will be fun to come back to this. We've had quite a bit of this stuff. It's not got a ton of awards.
It actually has a decent IMDb rating, 7.4 with a whole 212 votes.
I'm trying to see if there were any awards for this.
I don't think so.
But yeah, I don't see any awards for it. But which is a kind of a shame. I think this thing could definitely win some of the lower grade awards.
Right.
But with that being said, do you have anything else that you wanted to end on this? Because I think we've covered a lot. I mean, a lot of it's just the little things. And we don't want to ruin all of it for people.
No, you don't. You don't.
Because these are things... I mean, they're just like so many references. Like there's one where he's talking, we'll need a Metal Gear. And then
solid.
Solid, yes. So,
yes,
all these little things. If you are a gamer of any type when it comes to video games, I think you will have fun with this film.
Or like the RPG one, where it's like they're lined up and the villains are lined up, and the one villain comes up and hits him. Why'd you let him hit you? That was his turn. it's like, yeah, well, that's how it works.
But yeah, it is a very good movie. If you have a chance, you should check this out.
Yes, you should press start.
You have enjoyed this monthly series. Next month, we'll be trying to cover something closer to the tabletop realm. It was a movie that we were going to do, but since we both own a copy of this, I thought it would be best to start with one we both have a copy of. So, we will see you next time. But, of course, let us know what you think of this. I'm going to probably show this off to see if some other platforms want to take a look at this particular series. And it might be kind of fun.
Right.
So, we will see you on the next one. Goodbye.
Goodbye.